Hello everyone, Peter Hewitt, La Artistino. Earlier this month, I was one of the lucky people to receive an advanced edition of Johanna Basford's new book, World of Flowers, which is the book that you see in front of you here. Just turn it over. This is the US edition without the dust cover, and it is absolutely gorgeous. And I've just completed this picture in the book, a floral wreath. I posted the picture up on Instagram and I asked my followers if they would like to see a tutorial based on this particular picture, and the response was an overwhelming yes. Now I can't do this picture of course because it's already done, so what I thought I would do is use the same colour scheme on a similar picture and we'd do a full tutorial based on that. So I looked through the book and I found this picture here, which I thought would be a suitable one to do based on these colours. This picture appears round about the centre of the book, as you can see, and it's a lovely floral wreath. I liked it because it still has the branches in, like this one does here, and plenty of leaves and flowers in a round design that I can bring across most of the colour scheme and show you just how I went about colouring it in. Now, the colour scheme you'll notice is very bright. I decided what I wanted to do with this particular picture is stick with bright saturated colours and steer away from the duller unsaturated colours, which look lovely, but it wasn't what I was aiming for. The colours that we're going to start with, and this is only the start, will be these colours. The leaves are all coloured in the same four colours: cadmium, lemon yellow, light green, leaf green, and phthalo green. And of course, me being me, they are all colours from my Faber Castell Polychromos range. If you haven't got Polychromos, you can still follow along with a Prismacolor set by matching the colours up. Now the background, which is what we'll be starting with, I've used light magenta, pink madder lake, and violet. Now I have to confess, I also used one of my precious light violet pencils. These are no longer available in the Faber Castell sets, but I'm not going to use it for the one we're doing because that's not fair to people who don't actually have that pencil, even though there are a couple of different alternatives that some people have found. Anyway, we'll turn over to the page we're going to work on, which is this one. Right. Now, what you'll need, of course, is your set of pencils. It's always handy to have a colour chart for your pencils. I'll be showing you which ones I use for this one in particular, but it's good to look back and see what other alternatives there are. At the end, you'll need a white gel pen. I use the Uniball Signo Broad gel pen. I recently found out that I can get the fine ones as well, but I haven't got one yet. I'd love to see the difference between the two. I also will have a eraser. Now make sure that the tip of your eraser is clean when you use it, otherwise you're going to smudge dirty marks from the previous pencils that you rubbed out onto your fresh page. It doesn't matter which eraser. I prefer these Staedtler ones, but there are several different ones. I think Faber Castell ones are pretty good as well. Anything, as long as it's a soft white eraser, I think. And I'll also be using the Derwent electric eraser. I've demonstrated this, I think, in a previous video several years ago. It's just a razor that's a little piece put into here into a clasp and set into the eraser body, and you press a button and it makes it vibrate. It's good for getting rid of tiny little errors as well, and making little white spots if you want to do that. You also need a scrap piece of paper to test your colours on and your blending, or I like to use a little A6 sketchbook, which is a nice cheap little thing filled with cartridge paper that I can document all the colours I'm using and just mess around in, and I still can keep it for later if I want to refer back to the colours that I've used. And finally, you need a piece of card or a piece of paper to place underneath the page that you're working on to protect the following pages from any ink transference caused by the pressure that you're putting on the side of paper that you're colouring in. So I'll pop that one in there. Oh yes, one other thing that I forgot to mention, and that is a clip which I'll use to just hold my paper down nice and straight while I'm working on it. Just leave that to one side for the second and I'll show you how we're going to begin. Referring back to the original picture here, you'll see that the background is just a light misty haze of pink and purple, which is what we're going to be using these three colours. And the pink and purple are distributed in little sections around it. You don't have to worry about it being absolutely even, as long as you know that they're sort of approximately the same size, some a little bit bigger, some a little bit smaller. I'll turn back here and I will put my clip. Okay. Here are the three colours that we're going to do the background with. The violet, the pink meadow lake, and oops, dropped it, the light magenta. I'm going to start by doing a bit of pink around this flower, and as I move around the picture I will change from the pinks to the violet. I'll start with the lightest pink first, and we want to colour in lightly. Don't really want any pressure in at all, we'll just start with a very light layer. Like so. I'm going to lay this light magenta down first, and then I'll come back in with the pink madder lake and darken where we go closer to the flower, and then fade off as we get further away from the flower. Now the reason I'm using the background colours first is because they're quite light, and if I use the very dark colours I risk pulling some of the darker colour into the lighter zone by accident. I find this happens a lot with the blacks and the dark browns, so I prefer to go the lighter colours first. Now when I fade off, I'm not going to go all the way to the tips. I'm going to leave the longest parts that are sticking out of the flowers and the leaves, I'm going to leave sitting on the white, so that it's just basically darker in the centre where the flowers are, and getting lighter and lighter and disappearing altogether before you get to the ends of the leaves and the grass and the flowers. Now you do have to be mindful of where you've ended when you keep moving into these little sections, working around the pieces of the picture, so that it all matches up and looks continuous. That way it makes sense to the eye and it's a more pleasing picture to look at. You know yourself, if you look at a picture and something's not quite right, it doesn't sit properly with you because you know there's an error in it, it doesn't look right. So just be mindful of that all the areas that you're doing as background match up with each other. If you're having trouble with this, one thing you can do is very lightly take your lightest pencil, the lightest colour you're using, and draw a halo around it, just a circle delineating where you're going to finish up. This way you know where you're going to end up consistently, and you can erase the halo afterwards as long as you've drawn it light enough. So as I go down here, I'm going to start to move into the purple. So I want to lighten off the pink, ready for the transition into the purple. There are two ways that you can make your colours look darker and more intense. The most common way that you see is to press harder to get brighter colour sooner with less effort, except for the amount that you're exerting to push down. The other way, which is preferable for doing these soft pastel backgrounds, is to just lightly build up several layers to increase the intensity. This will give you more control and will also give you a much smoother result. Don't be tempted to press hard at this stage because you may end up with a streaky looking background. While we're zoomed in on this part, I'll show you now how I apply the next colour, which is the Pink Madder Lake. This colour is a little bit warmer than the light magenta, which we've just used, and a little bit more intense. Again, you're not pushing hard, you're just putting on several layers to build up the colour intensity. I actually enjoy this part of the colouring. I find that it's very relaxing. You're not constantly trying to figure out which colour to put where, because you've already worked out what you're doing and all you've got to do is apply the colour. It's very meditative. This is a good time to listen to some music or an audio book or a podcast. Okay, let's work along the back of these flowers. I'm switching back now to the light magenta and giving the flower background exactly the same treatment as I did here. Just gentle, you don't want to see the actual pencil marks, you just want a nice smooth surface. Still filling in all of this pink with the light magenta, all this pinky area. I'm going to use the light magenta to put a layer around most of this picture, and I'll either be tinting it with the Pink Madder Lake, as you've seen, or with the violet in the darker areas. So I'll continue on here. This entire background should take somewhere between 2 and 4 hours, depending on how fast you colour and how many interruptions you get. That's basically the background done now. You may want to continue to tweak it and strengthen some of the colours, or maybe rub some back with an eraser if you feel they're too dark. That's okay, you'll probably touch it up a little bit towards the end too, just to bring the picture all together. But if you've got something that's sort of similar like this, you can call it done and move on to the next part. Now we'll go back to the colours that I've laid out, and we're going to work on the leaf colours. Now you remember I picked the cadmium lemon yellow, the light green, the leaf green and the phthalo green to do this with. So I've pulled all of these out, I've sharpened them and they're ready to go. If we go back to the picture that I'm following, back up here, you'll see the way I've coloured the leaves is I've only used those 4 colours. Normally when I do a lot of different plants like this, I'll vary the different colours of the leaves, but because I want this bright and I want it to look all uniform, we're going to stick to those 4 pencils only and use them in different combinations and pressures to get a variety of different effects on the leaves. This will simplify things as well. You won't be trying to pick through your colours, picking out, different types of green or yellow. We can just get on with colouring the picture, with working with what we've got. Now you may notice I've got this funny little glove on at present. I picked that up off a website. It's only a couple of dollars and I'll leave a link below if you're interested. It's fairly small, but I've got small hands so that it fits me quite nicely, and I wear it to stop my any perspiration, light oils from my hands getting onto the paper, and also to stop me from smearing the colour all around the place, which is what I normally do. So we'll see how well that works. Anyway, let's begin. And I'm going to start up in this corner and I'll lay down some colour onto all the leaves and the bits and pieces of greenery. I want to complete all of those first, and then we'll move on to the actual twigs and the flowers themselves. Again, we'll start in this corner. I have a thing for starting on the top left hand corners, I guess because I'm right handed. I'll start with the simple bits. These little look like grassy leaves, don't they? Grassy blades coming out. And I think you've seen me do this technique before with these, where I start the bottom off light and I go darker as I go up the stem. So we'll do that with all of these that are sticking out of this flower. So start off with your cadmium lemon yellow. Just put a little bit at the base of each one and make it softer as you go up so you can blend the next colour down into it so you get a smooth transition. There, that's all of them in that section. Now I'm going to actually move to the leaf green, and I'll colour the rest of it in with the leaf green, but I won't press hard. Keeping it fairly smooth, and blend it in just a little bit at the base where it meets the switch out to the light green, and I'm going to use that to blend the darker green into the lemon colour a bit more, and press about medium pressure now, going up about halfway up the stem. Finally, we'll use the phthalo green, which I'm using as the darkest green, and we're going to colour in just the tips and blend it down. About the last 1/5, 1/4 to 1/5 of the blade of grass. Let's call them grass, make it easy. Now these stems, grass leaves or stems, they go behind the ones that are, these ones that go sort of are pointing downwards, go behind these ones that are pointing across or horizontally. So we'll want to darken the bits where it's behind this other stem to make the lighter stems, the ones that go horizontally, stand out and look like they're in front. So just add a bit more to the back ones. Okay, finally pick up the leaf green again and go over where you originally had the leaf green, blending it into all the other greens. And that should give you a nice smooth transition from the lemon down the bottom to the phthalo green at the tips. As we move around the picture, we'll repeat this for all of those other areas which have got grassy sort of strands. Okay, next we're going to work on the bigger leaves here, and this time I'm going to start with the phthalo green. I'm going to distribute the darker colour a little bit unevenly, a little bit patchy on the leaf itself, and that'll give it a more natural look. So I like to go around with this particular leaf. I'm going to go around the edges, just fade it in a little bit. Again, you light to medium pressure. We don't do any hard pressing on this first layer at all. Otherwise you'll seal the paper too much, you'll push down all the tooth and it'll be difficult to get any other layers on top of it. That's why we go light to start off with. Now we'll pick up the lightest one, which is the lemon yellow, and we'll add highlights in. Again, being a little bit patchy, crossing over onto the phthalo green. You'll make that green a little bit warmer doing that. And being sure to leave little areas for highlights. So you want some areas that are left just about white. Just little bits just to highlight it. And then finally pick up your leaf green and go over the phthalo green and some of the lemon, the cadmium lemon yellow, and just blend the two extremes of the colours together. Of course, this will make the green look more warm as well. And I've left a little bit here of white just down the centre, very blotchily, sort of. I've not tried to follow a pattern, I've just made it look a little natural and a little bit chaotic. There, and that basically is how I did the leaves in the previous picture. If you want, you can go back with your phthalo green and just darken the edges a little bit, and maybe darken where it comes, where the leaf is popping out from behind the flower, to make it look like it's recessed behind the flower. And that basically is that leaf done. Except for me, because I can't stop fiddling with things. Here we go. Just blend it in a little bit more. Yeah, and it's left a very interesting looking leaf. Of course, there's all different sorts of ways you can colour in these leaves. I'm just showing you the technique that I used in the previous picture, because I'm basing this picture off the previous picture. Put a little bit of lemon over the top again. I'm just going over with these colours, just with light layers, just to bleed everything in together. There, I like that. I think I'll leave that. I'm going to use the same technique in all the leaves, with slight variations on how I distribute the colours. So I think we might do this spiky one first, and this time I'm going to make it darker in the centre, where the central vein is in the leaf. And just at the points as well. And as I said before, randomise the way you colour in a little bit, just to give the leaf a bit more of a blotchy, natural look. Change now to the cadmium lemon yellow again. Again, be aware to leave some little areas for white to act as highlights. Switch out to the leaf green and just warm up that phthalo green and blend in more with the yellow, lemon yellow, being sure to leave some of the lemon yellow and to also leave some of the white areas. Go back in with your phthalo green to deepen up the deepest shadows. Down one side of that centre vein, I've got the uppermost side to make it look like there's a crease there. Around the base here where the petals partially cover the bottom of the leaf. And I think I'll just add in a little bit more leaf green to smooth it in, and a tiny bit more of the cadmium lemon yellow lemon, sorry, I keep saying it the wrong way. Here we go. You've got a nice little variegated leaf. Okay, now with these little leaves up here, I'll just pull the book down a little bit. The way I'm going to handle then is in a classic way of making the base of them lemon and then ombre them up to a darker tip. I don't want them to be as dark as the big leaves, so the colour that I will use as the darkest colour will be the leaf green. Oops, a bit of purple on that one. I want a bit of purple on that one. Let's get rid of that. I think these tiny little ones I may even just use the light green for. Need a fairly good sharp tip to get into all these little details without spilling over the ink lines. I might put a little bit of the leaf green. It's just not quite dark enough for me. Yeah, that's better. Appreciate it better now. Yeah, that's fine. I find that this particular pencil, the light green, is a bit on the hard side. With any pencil sets that I have, I find some of the individuals within the same brand, some of them are a bit softer and some of them are a bit harder. Such as in these Polychromos ones, I find the reds are very soft, but the greens tend to be a little harder. It's very tempting to push hard with these greens, but if you do, you're going to seal down the paper and make it difficult to put another layer on. So try to avoid doing that. just choose what colours to do these thicker, broader leaves. I think what I'll do is make them darker by using the Phthalo Green on them. But first of all, we'll just do these. I'm going to make the centre of these dark and put a little bit of the leaf green around the outside, leaving a little area just to put a highlight in. So they look a bit different than the other leaves. Right, I'm going to continue around and finish off all of these leaves. I'll go back up here again, and the spiky ones I'm going to use the same technique that I used for this one. we'll leave it there with the background and the leaves coloured. You may want to play around and tweak some of the colours a bit more so that they feel right to you. But I think if you've got something more or less like this, well then you're right to go on with the next part. Join me next time and we will start working on the flowers. Until then, I hope that you are having fun on whatever colouring adventure you are currently on. Until next time I see you, happy colouring! I hope you're enjoying any colouring adventures that you are currently on, and until next time, happy colouring!